This means that Donald Trump will be the 45th President of the United States.
Live from the Talk Radio 49 studios in North Little Rock, Arkansas, it's Money Mike Carnahan, Tropic Thunder, Tali Brim, and Sean Castleberry. It's the American Idiot Show, and it begins right now.
What's up, everybody? This is Money Mike Carnahan here, starting us off at the American Idiots, night one of the Democratic National Convention. We got all sorts of stuff to talk about here tonight, so we're going to go ahead and waste little time. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my other co-host, Miss Tropic Thunder, Tali Brim. Tali, how you doing here tonight?
Doing good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty wonderful myself. I'm pretty excited about the debate we're going to get into. We had some fun conversation before we went on live here, so definitely pretty excited about all the stuff we're going to get into here tonight. And of course, my dog wants to make a special guest appearance here on the American Idiot Show again. But we'll go ahead and bring in our second returning member here tonight, Mr. Antonio Reyes, making his return to the American Idiot Show tonight. How you doing, Antonio?
Doing wonderful. Thank you for having me again.
Hey, we're certainly happy you agreed to come back after the first night, so definitely happy to have you back, brother. Well, Tali, I'll let you go ahead and take the reins on this one and introduce our next guest host.
Bandit.
Tali, you want to introduce your guest for us?
Yeah. Sorry, I had to calm my own dog down. Now introducing pretty boy Sean Castleberry. California.
That's enough of you and your Vanity Intro, sir. That's enough of that. Now, Tali, I'm going to give you a second attempt here. We only have one left. You had a 50-50 shot here, and you screwed it up.
Dogs. Before Sean told me to kill mine.
Okay, go ahead and give us an intro.
Now, introducing the incomparable Shiloh White.
Shiloh, what a start. What a start here for you on the American Idiots.
Well, you know, very aptly named, I guess.
Very true.
Sorry about that, Shiloh. I do get introduction music because I'm a diva. So they're always supposed to introduce me last because I'm the prettiest one in the room.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's a matter of opinion.
Oh, I love that. I love that we have somebody questioning your prettiness, Sean. This makes me happy.
I never do.
And apparently, if you could hear her, Haley over here just said she questions it every day, Sean.
Oh.
She's coming for you.
She loves you, though.
So Haley, I like her better than you.
Ooh, Tali just told me she likes you better than me. I don't know if we can be friends with Tali anymore.
Oh, we'll definitely be friends.
Well, guys, we have a lot to get to. I think we're going to have a fun debate here tonight, but let's get the shittiness out of the way, Mr. Sean Castleberry, because I'm doing this just for you. The president's brother passed away over the past week, and Sean has now requested a special video be played for Mr. Robert Trump.
I want you to know it's over.
Well, bye.
You smell that, Bill? Smells like someone died.
You are a terrible human being, Sean Castleberry. Terrible. No, I don't advocate for anybody passing away. I don't know much about Robert Trump.
It happens to everybody.
Very true. Very true. But I don't know much about what happened. You know, politics aside, I don't know much about Robert. And apparently not much is known about the cause of death. Apparently, Donald tweeted earlier in the month that, you know, his brother was gravely ill. He went and visited him and things like that. You know, he said in a written statement, he was not just my brother, he was my best friend. So, you know, even politics aside, my heart goes out to Donald on this one. Tali?
I mean, I think that you have to be a really just kind of especially hateful person to not offer condolences to anyone in a time of loss, even if I do find them to be really deplorable as a human being.
Interesting choice of words.
Just like John Lewis.
Yeah, like
very true.
I think there's just to be compassionate no matter who it is you're talking about. So my heart does go out to the family.
Very true, very true. Cue Sean Castleberry to be an extremely hateful human being. Sean, any condolences for the Trump family?
I mean, I'm sorry the guy died, but we all do. You know, he wanted to do a service in the White House, and there's, you know, people are trying to stir up shit over that. I don't care if they do that or not. It's COVID-19. So if they want to do one in the White House, sure, man. That's the guy's brother. Who cares?
We just found a topic to debate because bullshit. That's reserved for certain people. You don't know. That's reserved for certain people.
This is a special situation during COVID-19 where a lot of people, including myself, can't even bury their family. I had a great aunt that died recently. They still haven't buried their family. And, you know, I just have to say that if he wants to do a service at the White House, okay, he's not talking about like a national thing. He's not talking about putting him in the rotunda of the state capitol. Just a private service in the White House with his family. I have no issue with that at all.
Well, Aliation Fox, thank you for the comment. We got our first MAGA comment. I'll be damned. It only took us a little while. We got our first hashtag MAGA comment. I'll be damned. And now we're talking about Robert Trump. But I mean, once again, I feel like I can agree with the people who are up in arms about this. That's kind of reserved for somebody that, you know, I don't want to say that Robert wasn't special because I don't know nothing about Robert, but you know that's
nobody does. Hold on, nobody does services at the White House. This is that's kind of a new thing, and even I am compassionate enough to say if Donald Trump wants to do that for his own brother, fuck it, who cares? I mean, that's his family.
Look, that's where he's living now. Yeah, that's his home. That's his family's home right now while he's president. And you know, anybody can have a private service at their home. Nobody's stopping them from that.
And I may not like the family, and I just did a really crude joke, but you know what? I still am compassionate enough to let the guy have his funeral, you know, service or whatever, remembrance service at the White House. It doesn't bother anybody. And if people are up in arms over it, fuck them.
True.
I would like to have an investigation started to find out if he had any dealings with Hillary. Hold
on. Let me see if the CIA's out here looking at us now.
Right? Is the FBI listening to it?
Oh, yeah. My FBI guy that listens on my phone all the time, you think I shocked you guys? You don't know. That guy hates me.
Tali, you have any thoughts on a potential funeral at the White House for Robert Trump?
Honestly, I'm on the same page as Sean with this because of COVID, this is unprecedented anyway. This is like when we were talking about if he were to accept his speech accept his nod as the Republican candidate at the White House. we are in the middle of a pandemic, and it's like, fuck if you do, fuck if you don't. I don't like Trump myself as, political figure or a human being, but I'm compassionate enough to say that in the middle of a pandemic, it's honestly upstanding to go ahead and do your shit in your home. And
right.
And who would be against someone giving their family a funeral? Michael?
I am curious, the anti-Trumpers there, were you anti-Trump before he was president, before he ran?
Who, me?
I was.
Any of y'all that are anti-Trump?
I was.
I've always been anti-asshole my entire life, but that's just me.
So, I can be the guy that gets the hate on this. Before Trump, I didn't know a lot of his leanings before he ran for president. He wasn't very vocal about the way he acted and the way he believed things.
Yeah,
well,
he
was. The
was
way
he?
acted.
He was pro-abortion. He supported the Clintons. He was.
I did watch The Apprentice, but that's business. There's a difference between business and politics.
For like 40 years, he played along both party lines. He would support Republicans. He would support Democrats. He gave money to both parties.
$6,000 to the current vice presidential nominee, mind you.
Right. And that's been his entire, basically playing in politics, saying all this. Plus, since the 80s, he's been toying around telling people, yeah, I might run for president. I might do this. I might do that. I want to bang my daughter. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and run for president.
I mean, Antonio, you laugh, but he did kind of say that the only thing he has in common with his daughter is sex. That's kind of messed up.
He did say that. He said that right there.
I mean, that's not as vulgar as.
Right there, I
guess. Touche. My goodness. Okay, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and drop Robert because I don't know much about him, like I said, and I can't really.
Dead guy.
We're gonna drop the dead guy.
Bye.
Bye. Happy trails.
They're gonna drop him in a hole somewhere. I guess we can drop the topic. That was supposed to be an offbeat, like dark humor joke.
Morbid humor.
Oh my God!
All day.
Is my face turning red? I feel like my face is turning red. Holy shit, Tali!
Michael, stop touching yourself.
You just came in with that and I almost died. Okay, hold on. Ooh, that is terrible, Tali Brim. Tali Brim, you are going to a special section of hell for that one.
There's no such thing as hell.
We're already living it. What are you talking about, Sean?
True.
Honestly, I'm the only atheist on the group. Everyone here believes in God. And so anytime someone makes a religious reference, I always have to, there's no such thing.
Yeah. He does. He likes to jab that on in there. Okay, so we'll go ahead.
Michael, that's for you, right there.
We'll go ahead and move on to what I think will be the best debate for the night. We'll go ahead and talk about the hashtag Justice for Canon movement. And like I said, I think we're going to have a pretty nice little debate. This is actually a pro-Justice for Canon video here on YouTube. It was made by Unit 88 on YouTube. So we'll check out the video and then discuss.
Police say 25-year-old Darius Sessoms is charged with first-degree murder for the death of 5-year-old Canon Hinnant.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Like always, thank each and every one of y'all for rocking with the channel. I really do appreciate you all. So imagine this for a second. Your kids are outside playing, riding bikes, playing ball, whatever they're doing. They have no worries in the world. Their only job is to be kids. They shouldn't have any worries. But then you hear a gunshot, and you run outside and you see your child laying in the yard, your 5-year-old bleeding from the head. This past Sunday, on August 9th, police responded to Arthur's Road in Wilson, North Carolina. Neighbors said that she witnessed 25-year-old Darius Sessoms walk across the street, put a gun to 5-year-old Canon Hinnant's head, and blew his brains out. This is one of the saddest things you can ever imagine. It's a parent's worst nightmare. The neighbor then said that she thought it was a joke. She thought that Darius was just playing with the kids until the father ran out of the house. Once she seen the way the father reacted, she knew that they weren't joking. She ran back into the house to call 911. When medics and police arrived on scene, Darius was nowhere to be found. They rushed Canon to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead. As of now, there isn't really a motive of why Darius shot and killed a 5-year-old out of the blue for no reason. The night before, on Saturday, Darius was at Canon's house having dinner with his father. And then the next day, he decides to put a gun to Canon's head and pull the trigger. There has to be more to this story. At least I would like to believe so. Witnesses at the scene are saying that Darius Sessions was upset that the child was playing in his lawn. He warned him to stay off his lawn, and that was the motive for putting a gun to his head and pulling the trigger. That makes no sense at all. Why on earth would any sane person do that to a child? I'm trying to remain calm and be professional during this video. But my question is, where is the media outcry? Why hasn't no mainstream media picked this news up yet? A 5-year-old child was murdered in cold blood by a grown man for playing outside in his yard. We got the name George Floyd shoved down our throats for the last 4 months when he resisted police officers high on drugs and was killed during the arrest. But yet this 5-year-old boy is murdered in cold blood and they can't even say his name. The problem with our country isn't racism. The media wants you to believe that. They want to divide us, but it really isn't. The problem is the media decides who is important enough to talk about and who isn't. Darius Sessions is in custody at the moment on first-degree murder charges. The family has set up a GoFundMe for Canon Hunter. I'll leave the link down in the description below. You can check that out if you would like to donate to the family. These are not easy times right now for their family. I'm sure there wasn't any life insurance policy. I'm sure they didn't expect their 5-year-old to pass away in the manner he did. It's very sad. Please say a prayer for their families, and I'll see each and every one of y'all in the next video.
Okay, I'm just going to diverge while I calm down and decompress. So, Tali, you can start us off.
I mean, I think we can unanimously agree that any piece of shit that just kind of kills a kid for any reason at all is just that piece of shit and deserves rot for the crime they committed. I think we can all unanimously agree that this was outright murder.
Absolutely.
I think we can also agree that the process for justice has begun. And I worry about, just like any other death, when you use it as a political tool without really having a concise message behind it. So are we just fighting justice for Canon as we continue through the court proceedings to make sure he gets the death penalty that the family wants? Because the family's, desires should be first and foremost what we consider moving forward. And I say that as someone that's pretty anti-death penalty, but I know that's what the mother wants. Do you know how easy of a ploy that is to keep screaming justice for Canon while his killer is behind bars, to promote anti-gun rhetoric? And I'm not anti-gun at all. I own guns. I believe in our Second Amendment rights to defend our homestead from, all threats that may come into our homes. But this is just a really quick and slippery slope. So that's my big question is, what do we mean by hashtag justice for Canon? Like, where is that going, and what is it we're looking for with it? Because how can we really discuss this topic if we don't know what we're referring to when we say justice?
Very true. I mean, there's no finish line in that. It's kind of like Sean and me have talked about the war on terror. What's the war on terror? Who are we fighting? It's wallpaper. But with that being said, the thing that, and I even said this, I was a little pissed off about, was the misinformation in the video as far as George Floyd. And the fact that literally there's two totally separate things going on here. We're talking about a guy who has been arrested and is going to be prosecuted reasonably to the fullest extent of the law. I'm pro-death penalty. This cocksucker is a candidate for the death penalty. Abso-fucking-lutely. He needs to die. He gets the needle. With that being said, though, he's incarcerated. Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old boy who was shot in his own yard. Similar to this, except this time it was by a cop.
Well, why don't we look more at Trayvon Martin killed by George Zimmerman? George Zimmerman got away with it completely, and Trayvon Martin was walking around with a pack of Skittles in his neighborhood, um, going home from the corner store. So, when we're looking at the video we just watched, we're talking about kids being able to walk the public roads, be able to be safe in their neighborhoods. I think that that's a better comparison when we're talking these two topics. And when we talk about justice for George Floyd, there is a concise, targeted goal with that. That was outside of just George Floyd. We're talking about the entire Black Lives Matters movement, the entire defund the police movement. There's all this other stuff. But when we're talking about just justice for George Floyd, there was a concise goal in mind with that movement.
Right.
So without having a concise goal, I don't know. I just don't feel like anyone who's behind the Justice for Canon movement is going to want their voice to be behind also anti-gun rhetoric. And
Right.
I feel like that's exactly the way we're going when the murderer is incarcerated.
Well, my thing is this, though. A lot of people, he mentioned something about the media and the lack of media coverage. I'm not sure about anybody else, but a lot of people get their media from Facebook, and it's been all the fuck over Facebook.
Yeah,
I'm just
so
saying.
I just want to put in my 2 cents here is that, this child died. Yeah, justice for this child. Yeah, absolutely. The people trying to use this for a political movement against Black Lives Matter or anything like that, these are extremists on both sides. The people that are against Black Lives Matter are trying to capitalize on this. The people that are completely anti-gun are trying to capitalize on this. And you know what? Those both sides of that, both sides of the spectrum there, they need to shut the fuck up. Okay? Because this kid died and justice is going to be served. The man's been arrested. So we have to wait for the due process. And that's all there is to it. Trying to compare this to anything else isn't really fair because, just like myself, I have a spectrum of beliefs, okay, as far as different topics, different points of view, and it covers many, many different things. I agree with Michael. I can agree with Antonio. I can agree with Shiloh or even Tali on so many different topics. But they're trying to, marginalize this into, one thing or another and split us all up. And you know what? That's bullshit.
They're trying to make it a black and white issue.
Yeah, and they shouldn't do that.
Or that way, there's no in between.
Right.
I agree.
It's too soon for us to say that there hasn't been justice for Connor.
Right.
But you can look back at Ayanna Jones, who was murdered by a police officer and had his day in trial where charges were dropped and then had an appeal on the charges that were remaining, which eventually got dropped.
Okay.
So
I think any time that you start using a death to politicize any sort of movement, whether it be, the death of a child or, like in the case of George Floyd, people took that and they're going to take the relevant facts that fit their cause and they're going to run with that. And it's not a matter of this is the truth. This is what actually happened. And so, yes, we should be upset about this, but we shouldn't be upset about this. They're going to say, oh, no, let me cherry pick, here and there what fits my narrative. What do I want?
Why can't you be pissed off about both?
Why do we need a fucking martyr for everything? When we talk about, mass like genocide, I will say, I think it's no secret that I do agree that there is a heavy stake of police brutality in our country. I do think we all know that. I agree that most of that is towards our Black community, but I also don't disagree that every race experiences it because my dad is white and has been a victim of police brutality. There's a lot of classism in there, but I think that Shiloh's entirely on point that when you completely sensationalize one death to make like
force to fit it your narrative,
yeah, because when we talk about Ryan Whitaker, I don't know about you guys, but the only people I hear talking about him, not even the Second Amendment people. We did talk about that. It's not even the Second Amendment people. It's Black Lives Matters, because he heard a knock at his door. He grabbed his firearm, went to the door, saw it was the cops, and immediately began to put his weapon down, get on his knees and everything. Right. Well, he still got shot in the back like 3 times. while doing exactly what he was supposed to do. So I think it's important to remember that we can talk about deaths when we're talking about a multitude of them. Like when we're talking about the Holocaust or deaths in American history, that like when we're accounting for African American deaths, like American descendants of slavery and everything they've been through. Now I can agree there. Um, but when we're just looking at one, I'm trying so hard to think of like another situation where we're talking about one death that didn't have anything else with it. Like I'm really worried about not having a concise like reason for the movement.
Where I'm confused on this is, why can't you be pissed off about both situations? Why can't you be pissed off about the Black Lives Matter, but also be pissed off that this young 5-year-old boy was shot down and fucking killed in the...
And it's the division that we're looking at in our country when we say you can't. But I think it's ridiculous to think most Americans aren't mad about both.
Right?
I agree.
I think you take a look at it and yeah, you've got people that are pissed off about both, but these stories are and the movements behind them, whether they're clear and concise or not, they are designed to divide people. Because honestly, that's the best way to control a population. Make sure they're fighting against themselves. If we've got black versus white versus Mexican, you know, we can't all come together and say, hey, these are actual issues facing our country. You know, this over here, yeah, it's kind of a problem, but it's gotten so much better. Instead, we're looking at these issues that don't really exist anymore, and we're turning them into, oh, this is the biggest problem America has ever faced. And it's like, we're kind of in the middle of I'm going to say a fake pandemic. That's keeping everybody inside. No one's looking at the downturn that the economy is taking for that. It's tanking because of that. We have real issues facing the country, and instead we're focused on black versus white again. When we've had we've had equal rights since the Civil Liberties Act of the 1960s. Now, that's not to say that prejudices don't still exist, but overall, one of these populations isn't out to get the other. And
overall,
I would agree with
yes.
Tali I would agree with Tali that police brutality is an issue, but it's not a race issue. It's a power issue.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I see your point on that.
I think there is a race issue with some policing.
I do. I think that disproportionately that African Americans are killed by police than white males. If you look at per capita rather than just the straight numbers.
And I don't even think it's with the killing. From what I've seen, there are more white people that are killed by cops than black people that are killed by cops. But there are a lot of cops that try to put Hispanic people in their place and black people in their place.
I love you for that, Sean. I love you just for doing that. I knew it was coming. I knew based upon because even I inhaled when you said that, Shiloh.
Yeah.
I knew based upon that statement that Sean was going to say something.
I heard the silence and I was like, whoops.
Well, no, it's definitely something. It's something. Have your opinion.
Everyone needs to have their opinion. That's why we do this show. Everyone says what they want to say. And if we disagree, we argue a bit, we debate, we don't get nasty about it. We don't call each other racist or bad names or anything like that. But, if you say something I disagree with, I'm going to call you out on it, just like with Michael.
Which is fair.
And Antonio should call me out. Tropic Thunder should call me out if she disagrees with something,
That's what I like about this show. And I think it's really important that we do disagree and we encompass really real points of view of everyone in our nation.
And
I think it's really important when we argue, we do this.
Yeah. And every now and then my little friend will pop up and do like this. But, it just is what it is.
Yeah. We do that all the time in my house to each other.
Okay, so I think we found our first divergent point from the headlines we were planning on talking, because I can't let that go unchecked. Shiloh, bro, come on now. First off, I have to ask. I'm assuming you believe the video of the doctors that came out standing. Okay, so before I tear it up like I did a few weeks ago. Before I tear that video to shreds, like I did a few weeks ago, explain why you believe it.
So I believe it because, I come from a medical background. I've been involved with doctors and hospitals most of my life, just different family issues, volunteering in hospitals. I actually wanted to be a nurse for a very long time. And there are, doctors speaking out saying, yeah, of course, COVID's real and all of this. But then there's the doctors who are like, it's not what we thought it was going to be. And looking at the facts of the way this disease has progressed, they said we were going to have 2 million deaths from it by this time, and the death rate has gone down. It's 1 to 3% of actual deaths from COVID. I mean, we had a positive test case for COVID in our house. One of our roommates got COVID, and it's been an issue that when it first came out, I was very worried about it because I have asthma, I have a couple of autoimmune diseases, I have a very shoddy immune system. And I was really worried about this because everything that was being said about it. It's like, if I get this, I could legitimately die from it.
Right.
One of my roommates got it, and we all went on quarantine for 2 weeks. 5 of us in this house together. He was sick for a day and a half. He barely had a fever. He had a bad cold for a day and a half. And he tested positive, and I actually, looking back on the way, this winter went for me, I'm actually pretty certain that I had it back in November.
Okay.
Because I get, like, I call it the cold of doom. I get one of those in the spring. I get one of those in the fall.
Right.
Every year, without fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the worst.
It is.
But this last November, I got sick. I just thought it was my, regular cold of doom, regularly scheduled illness. But it was so much worse. I went to the doctor about a week in, and for the first time in my life, I got a steroid shot. She said I was halfway to pneumonia. She didn't understand
Did you get
I
it in
didn't
her
have
butt?
bronchitis. I did. It was the worst.
They hurt me.
It hurt so bad. And she took blood, so I was like worn out and all jittered up on steroids at the same time. It was the worst feeling ever.
Oh, dude, I hate steroid shots. Okay, so my first thing is this. The first thing I want to ask you is, do you know the specialty of each of these physicians? Because I actually looked this up.
I do not. I did not look that up.
So the main lady that spoke was a primary care physician. Every other person was either a primary care physician or an optometrist.
Okay.
My question to you... Oh, go ahead.
I did want to say that the main lady, that African-American lady that was on there, she also believes that the government is infiltrated by lizard people. Okay? She also believes in, that witches are trying to attack our president. She also believes that Jesus is actually going to destroy Facebook for mocking the president. And there are a whole lot more crazy.
You laugh, but it's true.
I'm waiting for the lizard people in 2020.
Yes, incredibly insane beliefs that this lady has, and then she comes out and says this stuff, and it made me put my mask on as soon as I saw her, because I don't want to catch the crazy. It's insane what she believes.
So
how about the 2 doctors from California who put out, they work in, I think it was an ER. It's been a few months since I saw this video.
Okay.
But they came out saying, hey, you guys, yeah, it's bad, but it's not as bad as we've been led to believe. They put out a whole, this is why, this is what you should do. And their video got removed from YouTube. It got banned.
There's a family from Mayflower that would highly disagree with you. This woman that I grew up with, her husband and 3 of her brothers all died from COVID since March.
Okay, and may I ask, real quick, may I ask what age range they were in?
I don't know all the age ranges. A couple of them were my age, in their mid 40s. Okay, all African American. But I mean, 4 people in this woman's family died from COVID, and you know that it is affecting, especially the African American community, more than anyone else.
Okay, well, and I'm not trying to say that it's not a disease that, it can't kill or anything like that. But for me, I look at it's the same as the flu. It's the you're going to die from pneumonia, really, is what you're going to die from if you get COVID bad enough to get to that stage. And it's not something that should be laughed at or sneered at or taken lightly, but it's also not something that we should be shutting down our country for.
But if we did actually shut the country down, say, for 45 days, and I literally mean shut everything down. No businesses open, give everyone the opportunity to get what they need. Of course, some people are going to freak out and hoard or whatever, but 45 days, let this shit die out. Our country won't do that. If we had done that back in March or April, we'd be over with most of this right now.
Yeah, but what sort of economic repercussions would that have? If we
look at the economic repercussions we've got right now.
Yeah,
the only people that have made money. Well, the only people that have made money during this pandemic are the top 1%, and they've made billions off of this, while the rest of the people are suffering with a $1,200 stimulus check.
Okay, but here's my question: if we hadn't have shut anything down, if we had let just everyone continue on as normal and tried for herd immunity.
But herd immunity doesn't work that way. Okay, you have to have 75% of the population infected with this before you can even start herd immunity. Okay, how many people would die if 75% of the population got this? Well, more than 2 million.
So, Shiloh, I want to kind of go back to what I was getting at, though.
Sorry, yes.
You're fine. This woman is a primary care physician. She's basically a crew chief in the Air Force. She's a jack of all trades, master of none.
My husband's a crew chief.
I was an electrician. We love making fun of crew chiefs.
Funny. Sorry, carry on.
You're fine. But my question is, what gives her the right to question the foremost expert on specific infectious diseases in the world? A gentleman who has spent his whole life, and Dr. Fauci, who spent his whole life studying infectious diseases. Where does she, number one, get off saying that hydrochloroquine, he is wrong on that? And number two, saying that everything he has done is incorrect. We didn't need to mask. We didn't need to social distance. All of that.
I think that she has the right that any doctor has to question another doctor if they think that they've done something wrong, no matter what your specialty is. Now,
anybody, really, there's a lot of people that will go and get a second opinion regardless.
Yeah, I don't think that...
But are you going to go to an eye doctor to get a second opinion on cancer? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I am going to go to my primary care physician first before I go to, a specialist. And I'm not, she may be wrong about what she's saying, but she has the right to question another doctor if if what she is seeing backs up what she is saying.
How many lives are we talking about risking based upon what she said, though?
Right.
We don't
How
know.
many lives exactly?
And
but even one is a problem.
How do you trust someone that believes that lizard people have infiltrated our government?
And here comes Sean with I mean, true, but...
Well, I don't know about the doctors, but what I do know is on the job site I was on, of the 80 electricians that were there, 50% of us came down COVID positive. One of the gentlemen that tested positive rode with me on a daily basis. He was positive, I was negative.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I started seeing that this was not as bad as they were talking about. Another gentleman that tested positive, his fiance, who lives with him,
Mm-hmm.
tested negative. So either they're not kissing and making out, or it's not as bad as it seems.
Are you saying you did kiss and make out?
I mean, that's a good point, though. That is a good point, though. That does speak to lack of infectivity, Sean.
I mean, I've made out with Michael a lot, so.
Whoa, how you doing?
So I just know that somebody sitting in the passenger seat with me for an 1.5-hour drive to and from work. So you're looking at 3 hours total that we were talking, breathing the same air, yet one of us was positive, the other was negative.
Were either of you masked?
And I mean, is there even
No.
Okay.
Is there
No,
even a
because
clear consensus yet on how this disease is spread?
This was April and May and June.
I think
they deemed that we had to have our masks if we lived in separate houses.
Okay.
Shiloh just asked if there was a.
That's a good
consensus on
point.
How this has actually been spread.
I think it's an evolving process still.
Yeah, I mean they're still learning because this is such an aggressive virus. You know, it adapts very quickly.
But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't seem to be aggressive because not everybody is catching just because they're within proximity of each other.
Right.
It's a good point.
If it were aggressive, you would expect everyone who's touched anyone with it.
Hey,
to
really
cause
quick,
it.
there's a news flash that just came out. Ronald Washington and Carl Jordan Jr. Have both been arrested by federal authorities for the murder of, Jam Master Jay. So I just wanted to put that out.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Justice for Jay.
I really thought for a second you were going to say for the murder of Donald Trump's brother.
Wow, that's crazy. That was back in 2020. Wow. That's good, though.
Girlfriend killed Donald Trump's brother, by the way.
Oh, Lord Jesus. Tali, you've been kind of quiet on this. I mean, Antonio does bring up a good point. If he's that close and they weren't socially distant, well, they couldn't socially distance, but they weren't wearing masks, and he still came up negative, I do have a hard time arguing that point. That's a good point.
Oh, no, I totally agree. And I do know someone who's died, or I guess I knew someone who's now dead due to COVID. And I do believe it can kill you. I do believe it's a very real virus. Do I think it's near as bad as we've been led to believe? Not really. I do think that it's bad enough that every other nation in the world took swift action. I don't think they did that in some great big plot against America.
I think Sean was telling us it's beer 30.
It's beer 30. But I do wholeheartedly believe this is a very real virus. I do believe that if you have a shoddy immune system, it could be a problem. And I have been worried about this, Shiloh. You know.
Oh, honey, I know.
Well, I mean, and it's true.
House. I have a couple of times. I have left my house a few times, mostly to go to the grocery store, but I work from home. I'm always here all the time with my dogs, frying chicken and shit.
Well,
that was some good-looking chicken, by the way.
Chicken.
What about your shit? How good is your shit?
Yeah, is that
well,
good?
Let me tell you, I learned from that movie, The Help. And I read the book.
Nice.
Love
shit
that movie.
pie is the only way to go. So my shit's pretty good too. Fried shit pies.
Oh my goodness.
By the way, when I do this, it means I'm going to go get a beer. When Michael does this, he's about to take a peen to the face.
Yes, by the way, I'm the guy that gets made fun of on this show. That's me. That's Michael. I'm sitting back here.
Everywhere he exists.
This is true.
Including our work.
I look back here every so once in a while. I've got the DNC on the television back here. Real quick, as we talk about this, the Democratic National Convention is kicking off here tonight. Already so far, the Washington, D.C. mayor has stood over Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, D.C. And made a speech. I saw Shiloh's reaction. We've seen, but coming up, the one that's really shocking to me, and it's one that's really telling to politics in this country. John Kasich is getting ready to speak at the first night of the Democratic National Convention. And for everybody who doesn't know, John Kasich was the governor of the bellwether state in Ohio till, I believe, 2016. And Mr. Kasich has now broken ranks because he believes that Trump is a clear danger to this country. Real quick, we'll watch this video from PIX 11 detailing the first night 1 of the DNC, and we'll come back and we'll discuss how we think the DNC is going to play out and if it's going to slow the gap here for Trump and Biden.
The climactic moment of the convention is here. Long gone are the days of party leaders showing up to a political convention to fight over the party platform and pick a nominee for president. Democratic standard bearer in the November elections. That wrangling for control ended years ago in favor of more scripted ceremonies.
I accept your nomination for president of the United States.
But in the age of COVID and social distancing, this too will change. There will be the nightly speakers, including former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, as well as most of the leading candidates Biden defeated, including Senator Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, and of course newly minted vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris. But the speeches won't have that rally feel, as New York Democratic Chair Jay Jacobs conceded.
Your words, if you're a speaker this time around, will be projected onto TV screens around the country. But that in the whole excitement, that's gonna take a bit of a hit.
Perhaps the biggest change is all the crucial organizing that goes on behind the scenes. A quick scroll of the Democratic National Committee's website shows it's been reduced to a series of video conferences. Delegates we spoke with, like Michelle Jaker, put a positive spin on things.
There's nothing more exciting than being on the convention floor. You feel the electricity come through. But, I think Democrats are energized in a way that they've never been before.
And that is something we heard repeatedly from Democrats.
Donald Trump is doing an excellent job of what we would have done at the convention in person, of getting us riled up, ready to go.
I don't think that there's an election that is more important than the one that we have coming up this year. For the first time in my life, I really do think that the future of our country is at stake.
There is a level of passion that we probably have never seen before because people's lives haven't been on the line before.
So, DNC Night 1, and it's going to be keynoted by Michelle Obama, who, according to an aide earlier, put out that she will attack Trump in the most vicious way she has ever made a speech before. Overall, I'm looking forward to seeing Michelle's speech, seeing what she has to say. But first off, the difference in COVID times with the national conventions, do you think this will lessen the ability to get that post-convention bump, or do you think it will still be able to fire up the base?
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's nothing about this that means anything.
Because this is the new norm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, honestly, what they're doing is BS. It's just like Biden waiting until now to pick a vice presidential pick. Everything that everybody's doing is wrong on both sides.
Very true. Very true. You mentioned Kamala. She's obviously the vice presidential choice. Interesting, though, that Michelle, apparently what she is going to do is they expanded upon that and said that she is going to kind of expand upon her when they go low, we go high remarks from the 2016 Democratic National Convention. And she is supposed to be laying out a framework through voting of how you're supposed to go high when they go low. I anticipate her. I anticipate her speech. Of course, Senator Sanders is supposed to speak tonight. Bernie Sanders is supposed to fire up the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which I guess, Sean, you technically represent. We'll start with you there. Do you believe that Biden will be able to, Joe will be able to say anything? Bernie will be able to say anything that will fire you up and get you more excited to vote for Biden.
Get it together, Mike.
November 3rd.
No, not at all. No, not unless he could come out and say, hey, you know what? I convinced Joe to make universal health care his number one priority. I convinced Joe to make state colleges free for every American. You know, different things like that, progressive stances. I mean, Joe Biden doesn't stand for anything progressive at all. He is a moderate centrist, and he was picked to run with President Obama for that very fact. And there is nothing progressive about him at all. Anyone that accuses him of being a leftist or a progressive, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, they need to come and look at my Facebook page, because that's what I am.
And I mean, the thing is, I don't think night one here is technically going to reach across the aisle. Of course, I said I'm excited to see Michelle, but a lot of what we've talked about on these shows in the past previous weeks have been that Joe's going to have to reach out to that disenfranchised Trump voter and manage to bring them into the tent. It's kind of like what they used to say about the GOP. They're the big tent party. He's going to have to turn the Democratic Party into the big tent party for the disenfranchised Trump voters. And night one doesn't look like the night that he's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, but he can't do that and pull the Bernie voters, though, that are upset. He can't do both. And so I think if we're talking about Biden as a politician, his best move is to try to pull in the disenfranchised Trump supporter, because he's going to have a harder time reaching that Bernie supporter. That's right. Bernie.
Yeah, but now that he's named Kamala Harris as his VP, good luck getting the disenfranchised Trump voter.
Very true. I mean, even me, I sat here and said I don't like Kamala.
Bernie voters with Kamala because they're both tough on crime politicians.
I'm really curious. You just said now that he's picked Kamala, good luck getting the disenfranchised voter for Trump. Why is that exactly?
Okay, so disenfranchised Trump voter, when I hear that, I think people who are lower income, people who voted for Trump in hopes that he would do certain things for the economy, for business, all of that, people who are perhaps closer to the criminal justice system than they would like to be. Kamala is somebody who has no sympathy for lower income families. She is someone who has no sympathy and in fact has openly mocked people that have been disenfranchised by government, or who have made, some of them who have made poor decisions in their lives that haven't necessarily deserved the treatment that they've gotten. She doesn't care about them. And all you have to do is look at the entire time she was running for president. Nobody likes her.
Very good point. I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, all you have to do, like I said, if Trump makes the crime bill in '94 his narrative in this election, it's over. Because let's be honest, it's Trump versus Kamala at this point. In my opinion, it's Trump versus Kamala. Tali, I don't know if you're speaking or if you're on mute, but it's Trump versus Kamala at this point.
No, I was saying that it's set up so perfectly for Trump to tear down the presidential and vice presidential ticket on the, for the Democrats right now, because everything that's going on with the protests right now, they're a clear-cut example of like the cause. So you're looking at a lot of voters that are mad they even got picked. A lot of people are voting for them begrudgingly. I don't think I'm going to, because I'm in Arkansas and it's a red state. If I were in a swing state, that would be a different story. But as a voter in Arkansas, I'd rather vote third party and get third party on the next ballot, because I do think Trump's going to win, just because the Republicans are a lot more unified.
Very true, very true. Now, Antonio, I think you were the one who said this before we went on the air. You kind of alluded to something that I thought that would happen, and I think you said he was kind of bullied into this choice. Yes. I completely agree. I think that what we talked about last night with the 100 black men saying that his choice has to be a black woman to get the black vote. I think they accomplished their mission.
If that wasn't the truth, was he willing to take the risk?
Very true. I mean, like I said, you look at vice presidential picks in the past and they're all strategic. I don't see the strategy in Kamala Harris.
Kamala pick misses the point.
Yeah, here's the strategy for Kamala Harris. Elizabeth Warren raises more money but Trump has more fun trying to destroy Elizabeth Warren with the whole Pocahontas thing and everything like that. Kamala Harris is.
Trump can destroy Kamala Harris?
No, I don't think
Really?
that he can. Honestly, no. I don't think that he wants to go toe to toe with Kamala Harris because he's going to be called racist and he's going to be called all these things. I mean, it's a fact that
and where that
Trump
gets
hates
a lot
women.
Where that gets a lot of Americans, I don't think it would get Trump. He don't mind
Well,
being called racist.
Trump is going to avoid Kamala Harris because of his insistent hatred of women. He doesn't want to talk about her. He doesn't want to have anything to do with her. He's going to leave it up to Mike Pence to actually take care of that.
No, Sean, I disagree, though.
The less Trump says about Kamala Harris, the better it is for Trump.
Well, let's be honest, very true. But let's be honest, the same day that Joe announced the pick, Trump already went at Kamala. Like I said, it's Trump and Kamala. It's not Joe versus Trump, it's Trump and Kamala.
Well,
but Trump praised her and then attacked her, later in that day.
Was it really praising, though? Was it really praising, hey, you'd be my number one pick? You know exactly what he meant by that, because I can destroy you. He meant that as a backhanded compliment, in my opinion.
The problem with the Democratic Party is when selecting, like when you're being pigeonholed into this spot, and they're missing what Black America would have actually wanted. It's not that they just want your run-of-the-mill Black American.
Right.
What they would have liked to see was an American descendant of slavery able to speak on behalf of that American experience and family history. And that would have been a better slot for, say, Michelle Obama to fill, but she didn't want to. So they just picked the next, I mean, I'm sorry for saying this, but like the next Black chick available.
That's the reason I think, and for me and for a lot of my female friends, when Hillary was running, and I had a lot of people say, oh, well, you're going to vote for Hillary, right? First female president. I was like, pardon my language, fuck no. Like, it can't just be the first female president. It can't just be the first Black president, the first Black female VP. It's got to be the right person for it. Like somebody.
Right.
Yeah. And
If the Democratic
position.
I agree.
If the Democratic Party really wanted to embolden their base and actually get a winning ticket, they need to have someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Dr. Cornel West run together.
So my question is this also, because I forgot about this one earlier when mentioning the speakers on night one of the DNC. And this may change your thoughts on what night one is going to be. Sean, stop rolling your eyes, young man. But the family of George Floyd is also expected to speak tonight. So that speaks volumes to me as to what they're going after on night one as well. It's a very pandering night to me with having that go out there.
Well,
not that there's anything wrong with George Floyd's family.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. But that
while Raw is going on.
I mean,
what's going on?
What?
He's talking about wrestling.
Oh. Sorry, I didn't know.
It's Raw.
What you were talking about? I don't know.
WWE.
No.
Raw.
I mean, they're pandering to all the African Americans. They're trying to embolden, that base by pulling out Black Lives Matter, talking about George Floyd, having George Floyd's family out there, trying to say that Joe Biden is the one that represents them the most with Kamala Harris.
Does it work though?
Does it work?
I don't know
narrowly,
because
though.
I think it could work if they do it the right way.
But you still have Kamala at the top of the ticket with them. And Kamala is the most anti-radical criminal justice reform.
Kamala Harris was a prosecuting attorney.
Oh, you want this? Okay, well, here's Obama. Oh, you want a woman? Okay, look, here's Hillary. It's always them trying to get the American public by saying, we want to give you what you want.
Yeah, but it worked with Obama.
I think, honestly, part of the reason it did work with Obama is they made such a big deal over Mitt Romney being LDS.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they? I don't remember them making a big deal about Mitt being Mormon.
I think that Mitt Romney
came down to them.
Mitt Romney lost because he's not charismatic.
If you don't vote for Obama, you are racist.
I disagree with you, Sean. I completely disagree with you. Mitt Romney lost, in my opinion, because of a comment that came out, 2-3 days before the election, where he said, I don't care about the other 99%, I just care about the 1%'s vote. That's where he lost the election, in my opinion.
That may be a part of it, but Mitt Romney is really not that charismatic of a person. I mean, when you actually look at him and the way that he carries himself, I don't think so. Does he embolden the religious right? Does he embolden people that believe in God? Yeah, he probably does. But he's like a really nice preacher. He's not a charismatic political leader.
If you stand him right next to Barack Obama, which is what was done, then yeah, I can definitely see how that's the opinion you would have. Because
True.
Obama is
overly charismatic.
Yeah. You know? Right. And so you stand those two people next to each other, of course you're going to come away with Mitt Romney isn't charismatic. Now,
Bill Clinton would look uncharismatic next to Barack Obama.
Are you kidding me? Right? Bill Clinton?
I don't think he would look charismatic next to Barack. Barack was an amazing...
Okay,
Barack was an anomaly.
We're talking about Bill Clinton, man. Bill Clinton can reach over and grab your fries and be like, hey, man, were you going to eat that?
He'll reach over and grab something, all right?
I agree.
That was good. That was good.
Bill Clinton reaching anywhere near me to grab anything at all.
That's so true. I don't want Joe. I mean, for that matter, I'm not too sure I'd want Joe reaching anywhere near.
I'd be afraid to be in the same room with Bill Clinton.
Oh, he don't reach. Joe sniffs.
Joe sniffs. Joe does sniff. That is a fact. Joe is a sniffer.
That's his biggest fear about the coronavirus, losing his sense of smell.
Hey, you know what? I would prefer a sniffer over a pussy grabber.
Touche, but that was too good.
Yeah,
I like
to Tara Reid, Joe Biden's both.
Ooh, what? I've not heard this. Hold on, what?
What?
You listen to Tara Reid, Joe Biden's both.
I mean, Tara Reid's a cokehead, but you know.
No, I haven't heard Tara Reid. What is this? Did Tara Reid accuse him of sexual
I haven't heard
assault?
this.
Yeah.
Really?
Tara Reid, the actress?
No, not the actress.
Oh.
Hang on.
Yeah, she's an actress.
Because I know there was a 13-year-old girl that accused both Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein of raping her the same night. And
so Tara Reid, the staffer, she worked for Joe Biden.
Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. I thought we were talking about the actor, the like cokehead woman.
You said that, and I was like, wait, something's not right.
Yeah, hold on now. No, I really didn't know that, so that's definitely interesting. I mean, Joe's got. Let's be honest though, Joe's not any better than Trump on that situation. They're both absolutely.
I don't know. I don't think that Joe Biden was ever accused of raping a child. Donald Trump has been accused of raping a child.
I hadn't heard that.
Yes,
I have heard that.
There's a woman during the Epstein, fiasco that was happening a few years ago. She came out and said that when she was 13 years old, that both Epstein and Trump raped her, and that case went away after someone who they don't know not only threatened her, her family, all of her attorneys to basically kill all of them. And so they all quit the case. Everyone quit the case.
Well, while we're talking about the DNC and Kamala, recently, I believe it's Reverend Al Sharpton on MSNBC said that Trump should be worried about Kamala as the pick. So here we go. We'll watch this clip from MSNBC.
Yay!
For this week's memo to Trump, I want to talk about cowardice. It's a quality you have in spades, Mr. President, and it's reared its ugly head this week when presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden named Kamala Harris as his running mate. You and your Republican toadies couldn't decide on a line of attack. She's a mad woman. No, she's calculating and ambitious at controlling Biden's every move. She's soft on crime and somehow also a champion of mass incarceration. Your people even went so far as to try to reanimate the birther lie, implying that Harris, the the Oakland-born daughter of immigrants, should somehow be ineligible for the vice presidency. And as for that last bit of grotesque white nationalism, I have 2 words for you. You wish. You know, she's more popular than you. Though with your tanking approval ratings, that's admittedly a low bar. Still, the instant Harris joined the ticket, she became the most popular person in the race, not only beating out you, Mr. President, but Vice President Mike Pence and even our own running mate, Joe Biden. Even you, Mr. President, recognized her greatness not long ago. You donated to her political campaigns twice, in 2011 and 2013. Bet you wish you could take that money back now that Kamala Harris is a looming threat to your own power. Black women are the most reliable voting bloc for Democrats, and they reignited Joe Biden's campaign. This pick will ensure that those black women stay motivated to overcome every voting suppression tactic you try to throw at them to not vote on Election Day. And Kamala Harris isn't only the first black woman on a major party's presidential ticket, she's also the first Indian American and Asian American person on a major party ticket. Her candidacy resonates among people of color all over this country, Mr. President. You are right to be afraid of this coalition because we're coming for your job. And you're not the only one who should be nervous. Kamala Harris is going to absolutely wipe the floor with Mike Pence at the vice presidential debate. Mr. President, I've been amazed these last 4 years at the depths of your cowardice. But up against Kamala Harris, you're right to be afraid. You fear Harris for the same reason you fear America. She contains multitudes. She worked hard for her education and her career and is living proof that while you and your cronies may try to break the American dream beyond recognition, sometimes hard work, empathy, intelligence, and grit can propel a little girl from Oakland all the way to the White House. We'll be right back.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC.
Okay, so I don't often agree with Al Sharpton, but he said some things that I do agree with. Number one, the first one, and the one that I think we can all agree on, Mike Pence is about to get destroyed in these vice presidential debates. Mike Pence is, I'm here for it.
Mike, okay.
Mike is not a strong debater. Mike did not do well against, who the fuck was Tim Kaine?
So first off, I love Al Sharpton. I love the showmanship of the guy. I think he's amazing. Is he a hypocrite? Yeah. But I love the guy, and I love the way that he speaks and the way that he puts everything out there.
Kamala.
That dude is awesome. As far as Mike...
I'm calling her Kamala for the rest of the election, by the way.
And as far as Mike Pence doing a debate with Kamala, dude, there's no way Mike Pence can win. Mike Pence thinks the world's 6,000 years old. The guy's a freaking idiot. He won't even be in a room by himself with another woman. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's
because
very
mother
smart of
tells
him
not to.
In this political climate, that's probably the smartest thing he could do.
What is that?
Really?
Not being in the room with a woman by himself. That is
really?
Absolutely
why
a
though?
good move on his part.
But wait, he does that because mother tells him not to.
Hold on, Sean. Hold on. Antonio wanted to say something.
I said because you have women that are willing to cry rape over nothing just to push the Democratic Party ahead.
Yep.
Okay. But he's not even allowed to sit at a table with a woman, let's say in a crowded room. That's considered alone by mother. You can't do that.
What do you mean he's not allowed?
His wife, who he calls mother, will not allow him to be in a separate space away from other people alone with another woman.
Question though, Sean, to be fair, is that respecting your wife? Yeah, that's creepy. But speaking of this, is that not respect for your wife though? Is that what's the reason why the wife won't let him sit? What's the reason why the wife won't let him? Does she not trust him?
It's some weird religious superstition. It's some
really is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I totally get it because a lot of mega conservative Samoans are the same way that like took missionary Christian teachings, and like they're very, very strict. You, as a man or a woman, you are not alone with a person of the other gender. Girls do not like spend time around like a man's environment, vice versa. And when you're sitting in a public area, you sit with the man or woman you're supposed to be next to. So if you're like, for example, a single girl, you sit with your mother and your father. You know, and if you're a young man who's unwed, you sit with your father and your mother.
I mean, it's just religious extremism, and it shouldn't be tolerated that way.
Yeah, it's not extremism.
Going around with Obama and another young lady talking and laughing while Michelle was to the opposite side, not looking very happy, and after a little bit, they switched places so that Obama was not near the other woman.
And that's fine if that's what anybody wants to do. But to actually make a policy thing where Mike Pence comes out and says, I can't be alone with a woman, even in a crowded room at a separate table. I can't do that because mother tells me not to. That's some weird shit.
That's creepy.
I don't think it is. Honestly, those are his standards, and he's making sure that everyone knows them. And I know you guys are, it seems like you guys are kind of hung up on the mother thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how much. I don't know how much time you guys have spent around like older people, like older couples, older like.
I have.
I know.
Sean's older.
Okay. So back home, I'm from Colorado. I'm from out west, and a lot of the people my grandparents' age, they call each other mother and father.
That's weird.
And I think it has something to do with they've been raising their children, and when you talk to your children, you know,
your mother, your father,
do what your father asks. You get into that, and these are people that have been married for decades and decades. You know, my grandparents just hit their 50th anniversary.
Well, I've been married for decades and decades. I mean, it was with 4 different women, but I don't.
Why am I not
call
surprised?
any of them mother or mother.
Okay, but that's the thing. You were married to 4 different women, right?
Yeah.
You said. Okay. So do you have kids?
Yeah, I have 6 kids.
Okay. So have you ever with any of your wives, ex-wives? I don't know how.
Yeah, I'm not Mormon. I did it all separately.
Hey, I'm Mormon too, and we don't do that anymore. So it's different to have, you know, X amount of children by X amount of women, and to have been part of their life, and then it's different to be, this is my spouse that I have been with since we were late teens.
Yeah.
We're now in our 70s, 80s, 90s, and we spent a good portion of the years that we were together raising our children, and we've been together. And, you know, you get into that habit, mother and father. And that's never something that struck me as odd, because not only have I seen people do that, a lot of the people that I've spent time with, but it's also in, you know, some of the stuff. I read older literature, and people called their spouses mother and father because they're used to calling it them mother and father for their children.
I can see your point. I can definitely see your point there, Shiloh, as far as that goes. Now, I want to move on to some of the other stuff Sharpton said in that, and he made a very good point. It seems like the right doesn't know how to attack Kamala. First, she's tough on crime. Then she's weak on crime. I mean, these are facts that he has said.
They go back and forth.
Here's the thing. We don't need to attack Kamala because she's doing it herself.
What is she? Hold on now. What has she said that is that?
It's her own stances. It's her own stances. She's tough on crime. She's weak on crime. She, you know, she wants the criminal justice system to. So
you're saying Kamala flip-flops?
Yeah, I do.
So Kamala Harris wanted to be a prosecuting attorney because she wanted to be on the process to try to help change the process, because she saw things that were wrong. Now, has she made mistakes like anyone else? Yeah, absolutely. And there's things that she's done that I don't support at all. There are stances that she has that I don't support at all. But as far as a candidate to try to run against Donald Trump and his "Let's Make America White Again," yeah, I'm definitely against that, and I will support Kamala Harris 100%.
Oh, see, and then we're going to disagree, because I don't think Trump is running on a "Let's Make America White Again" stance.
Oh,
you don't?
I don't.
You don't think that his message applies mostly to white America?
No, I don't. I think his message of make America great again. I think that applies to everyone.
Not everybody that supports Trump is a racist, and I will admit that right now. But we do know for a fact that all racists that are white supremacists support Trump.
Very true.
No, didn't he just get denounced by the leader of the KKK recently?
I think he recently got endorsed by the KKK, actually.
Right.
I'm pretty confident that I read that in a memo recently.
David Duke and the alt-right and all those guys support Donald Trump.
Hold on, Sean.
Racist people support one person doesn't mean that person is racist himself.
Well, I didn't say that he was. I'm just saying that racists support Donald Trump. And I don't know why.
Okay.
That's just a universal thing.
Well, here's what I was looking at. It's a former KKK leader, David Duke. He's been condemning Trump because Trump condemned the KKK and condemned neo-Nazis. And I think
when did Trump do that? Because the last time I checked,
never
Trump
heard him condemn
in Charlottesville.
No, he said they were very good people when that guy ran over that lady.
Now, did you listen to the whole everything that he said?
I did listen to what he said after the guy ran over the woman. He said there were good people on both sides.
Both sides.
And here's my problem with focusing on just that section of what he said. Yeah, he said there are good people on both sides, but what nobody remembers or everyone pretends to have not heard is he also said racism is evil and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups.
But the people that were on the other side,
I feel like that's
that were at Charlottesville, that were marching, were all racists and white supremacists that were saying things like the Jews will not replace us. Okay, I mean,
you can't say there's good people on both sides in this statement. Just for the simple fact being, there's no good people on that other side.
There were anti-Semitic. There were people
you get into the
waving
same
Nazi
argument
flags.
with the Black Lives Matter people. You've got some that are peacefully
I would say it's
protesting,
different because the
and you have
KKK
others that
has
are out
200
kicking
years of
people in
history
the
of actually
head,
killing people.
causing them to go unconscious.
But the KKK has 200 years of history of actually killing people, have never been deemed a terrorist organization, have never answered to their crimes. They've gotten away with it every single time throughout American history.
Right.
So when we're comparing the KKK with Black Lives Matters, we're comparing something where it's literally a handful of people that are extremists in the cause.
Not even associated with Black Lives Matter, just picking up the BLM label.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
No,
all of KKK is for killing people of color. All of KKK is for white supremacy. So there are no good people. When you look at Black Lives Matters, you have corrupt extremists, just like you see when you're looking at Christianity and Islam, okay? You have extremists who corrupt the movement, who corrupt the belief system.
Those are the bastards.
Those are those people, but they don't speak for the whole movement because the whole movement isn't built on, like the KKK, they're literally built on white supremacy and killing for sport people of color.
Right.
And that's what they did for 200 years.
And here's a good example. Okay, so Shiloh said that she was LDS earlier, right?
Right.
So back in the 1800s, the LDS Church under Brigham Young slaughtered 300 Arkansans that were going to California. Okay, that happened on September 11th, almost 150 years ago. Now, if I were to hate all Mormons for that happening, then I'm an asshole.
True.
I don't hate all Mormons. Okay, most Mormons are really good people. But the fact that happened, it's an atrocity that happened to 300 Arkansans that were going to California, and we need to acknowledge that.
Oh, yeah, that was.
And that's what Tali's saying. Tali's saying that there needs to be an acknowledgement of these things that needs to happen, and people try to ignore all of that, and that's just not right.
Shiloh, I think Dina wants to know where you got that piece of news from.
Which one?
I guess the Charlottesville.
I was reading a transcript of what he said.
Okay.
Trust me, I wouldn't be able to remember all that off the top of my head.
You're fine. You're fine. I figured you were reading something because you did quote it pretty well. But no, I mean, I think my hang up on that is the fact that he said there's good lives on, or there's good matters, or there's good people on both sides. In this case, Trump, you cannot say that. You cannot say that. There is not good lives or good people on the other side of this matter.
Okay, so I think when I hear him say that, I'm not looking at the KKK members, like people who ascribe to these groups, but I do know people of every color who are racist and who are bigoted.
Very true.
And they're still good people. So if there are good people, they're still overall, I think they make bad choices. I don't agree with their beliefs. And I think I definitely disagree with things that they say and do. But they do also contribute to their communities. They do
I'm not going to
raise
stand
children that are.
I'm not going to stand on that ground with what she's saying, but what I will say is, while yes, the KKK and neo-Nazis there, they weren't the only ones that were there supporting Trump. But there were some that didn't take those views, but were still Trump supporters.
So you're saying like the BLM, where we have, unfortunate people taking the name, you're saying people were taking Trump's name and they were a few.
They happened to be in the same area when something bad happened, yes.
Right. Shiloh, that's rough for me because I have a line in the sand there as far as that goes. Mm-hmm. Once you go racist, that's just you're a bad person, in my opinion. Once you go racist, whether you be black, white, yellow, pink, or purple polka dots, you're a piece of shit human being, in my opinion.
So
Okay,
if I say
but
I don't
that's
like
just
other
me.
people,
Let me throw this. Let me throw this
Sean,
line in the
stop.
sand out there. If you look at a lot of what these peaceful protesters are saying, if you're white, you're racist.
I've never
white
heard
and
one
you don't
person
believe
say
in white
that.
privilege, and you don't believe in systemic racism, and you don't believe in police brutality, you're racist.
When they were dragging the guy out of the truck in Portland, you didn't hear him saying, "We're Black Lives Matter. This is what you get. This is what we do."
But how many people
Watch
did
the
that?
video.
And are they really associated with Black Lives
That's
Matter?
my
or were
point.
they actually saying that?
That's my point on those.
Right?
me,
When
that's
you
like
look at the
saying
LA
that-
riots, back in the 90s, and those people pulled that trucker out of the truck, they beat the hell out of him. Were those people guilty of hurting him, or were all black people in Los Angeles guilty of hurting him?
At the same time, saying Black Lives Matter, or saying Black Lives Matter is responsible for everything Black Lives Matter protesters are doing, they're responsible for everything that those other unfortunate few are doing, is like saying that every Muslim or every person that is of that belief believes and is responsible for 9/11.
Just because there's a few KKK members and a
No.
few that
It's the whole foundation of the group, Antonio.
The contract, you sign a contract to join the KKK. You have to sign a contract to join the KKK. In that contract, it lists every ideal of theirs, and it is 100% white supremacy. That is the foundation of the KKK. That is the history of the KKK. That is the reputation of the KKK. That is what the KKK and neo-Nazis are. Now, I would understand you, Antonio, if you were saying that it's wrong to accuse every Trump supporter of being racist.
That's what I'm saying.
But no, you keep talking about
point
KKK.
out the fact that just because a KKK member was there, the next person that steps up and says, "I'm pro-Trump," doesn't mean he's KKK.
Well, North Carolina,
I
North
agree with
Carolina,
that.
Charlotte, that wasn't led by Trump supporters, though. That was, in fact, led by neo-Nazis and KKK.
That was literally a rally,
run by
yeah.
them. So when you're talking about that specific one, that's what it was.
Okay, but looking at Black Lives Matter, yeah, it's not to the same level that the KKK is. It is a new movement, and it's not their responsibility to, police all of these efforts. And the people who are going out and doing atrocious things and saying, Black Lives Matter, the organization, does have a responsibility to denounce some of these things. The black guy that
I would agree, but they do. In my cases, I've seen.
In my participation,
I completely denounce it. By the way,
when I'm paying attention to the things the actual leaders of the Black Lives Matters movement saying, and I'm not looking at your random Joe on the internet or anything like that. I'm literally looking at the people that are leading the protesters, that are the voices for the movements locally. not nationwide. I don't look at Seattle for an example for Arkansas. I look at Arkansas for example for Arkansas. And when I see people like Don and Osiris talking about Black Lives Matters and these acts of violence, they talk about doing something different, something better, refocusing that energy. And they do talk about points that they want to discuss with politicians, not just beating the Black Lives Matters agenda, down without actually like kind of giving like a concise and like clear motive for what.
But if you look at the Ku Klux Klan, their entire leadership structure is white power. There's a big difference between Black Lives Matter and the KKK, and it's not just the fact that one's saying Black Lives Matter and one's saying fuck Black Lives. It's the fact that one is legitimately built on a system of racism, and one is built on, hey, we want equality. We aren't saying that your life doesn't matter because you're white. We're saying that my life matters, and I happen to be black, and unfortunately I'm dying because of that systematically in this country.
But they're not. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's true. And honestly, looking at the Black Lives Matter mission statement and looking at the acts that people have taken in the name of Black Lives Matter, the cities where there are gangs now starting to extort people in the name of Black Lives Matter, that's a real issue. And it's a real issue when somebody comes up to me and says, Black Lives Matter, and if you don't agree with that, then you're a racist and you're a bigot, and you deserve everything bad that ever happens to you. When I'm over here saying, I believe that all lives matter. I believe that your life as a Black person matters just as much as my Hispanic friends, matters just as much as my European friends, matters just as much as my Samoan friends. There is no difference.
But when the Black Lives Matter movement starts, you don't automatically say, well, then all lives matter, right? You don't say that, right?
What do you mean? Say it out loud, or what do you mean?
I mean, when Black Lives Matter started, and everybody came out and they started going, well, no, all lives matter. Black Lives Matter doesn't say that all lives matter. They're just saying, hey, we want you to focus on us for a minute because.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your sentence.
Isn't that nixing their whole point of equality? We just want to be included like everybody else?
No, because unfortunately the equality is here's everybody else and here's Black lives.
Important thing to remember about the rhetoric is when you say more white people are killed, you're missing per capita where 49% of our population is white. And when you're looking at per capita, literally only
it's
about
so
100.
Disproportionate.
It's like only about 100 or 200 more than black people are killed in instances of police brutality. But when you're looking at that, you're missing the part where only 13% of the population is black. When you're looking at whites not now being the minority, you have to put them up against every Hispanic, every Latinx person ever, every type of Asian, every different person in the Black community. That means African immigrants and American descendants of slavery. Literally, it takes all these different subgroups to make more people than the white population of our country. And it takes all of these people, if you put all their police deaths against the white deaths per capita, they vastly outnumbered that. And so when we're looking at
Black, pops into my head is that's what the Democrats have done with abortion. They have kept the black numbers low.
What's that?
Here comes Sean.
That's actually
what
true.
Democrats have done with abortion.
I agree with that.
Black numbers low.
I actually couldn't hear because she said something. What did you say again?
I said that is because of the Democrats and the abortion.
No, that's literally just the police death. Like, that's just the numbers of people dying in instances with police.
Okay, but at the same time, with that,
there was more white people, therefore that's why more white people are killed.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
No, that's not what I said. I said when you take the number of total minorities killed by police and stack it up to the total number of white people, which make up 49% of our government, our entire nation, you have double the amount of minorities that die. When you only focus in on black and white, 13% of the population is black and only 100 fewer deaths than a 49% white population. And that's only police deaths, and it's per capita. So you're comparing it within the populations of those societies, those communities, not like.
Okay, but at the same time, is it surprising that police are more on edge around the 13% of the population that commits a disproportionate amount of the crime in the country?
It should be.
I'd say there's an issue with that number because they shouldn't be, one. And two,
exactly.
we have to also acknowledge the entire history of our country where every time black communities have built themselves up and become wealthy and found rights for themselves, literally there were riots. And we're not even just talking about Tulsa, Ocoee, Florida, random ass places throughout the North, especially the North after the Civil War, when black people started moving up north. Right. They started rioting anytime these communities had successful hubs because that's a threat to power. And so when we're talking about, okay, these ghettos and where these communities are and how disproportionate the crime is, we also have to remember that we kind of made these areas the way they are with our history, because never once have they been able to build up and keep what they've built.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with that, but I am going to throw in that, they did actually manage to start building stuff up, and then Democrat policies came in, and now you have the fatherless rate of Black Americans is disproportionate. You've got a welfare state that.
Well, that's an entire, when we're looking at systemic racism, though, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about Republicans. We're talking about the entire system. When we talk systemic racism, we're talking about every Democratic and Republican policy that does hurt these communities at a disproportional rate. Because the reality of it is both parties do hurt these communities. And I'm not going to sit here and argue that the Democratic policies of gentrification haven't hurt these communities more in modern times, because when we're looking at the 70s and before, that is all race riots. But when we're looking at it now, for the last 50 years at least, we've been making a turn and entering where it is fully policy-based systemic racism, and not your Joe Blow neighbor deciding, oh, I'm tired of these Black people becoming successful. Let's get a band of us together to go burn it down.
I mean, you look at, you don't believe systemic racism happens in this country, but look at the disproportionate amount of Black people that are incarcerated in this country. Go ahead.
Who doesn't believe in systemic racism?
I believe Shiloh said she doesn't.
I don't think that the way it's presented, I don't agree with it. I don't think that.
Okay, so let's just look at history. Let's go back, 400 years. Since the colonization of this country, African Americans have been enslaved, and they were brought over here to basically work for free. Native Americans were slaughtered in a genocide. Over 100 million Native Americans were killed by white Christian colonists that came over here, then established this country. You look at, our Constitution, you look at the, Bill of Rights and how it says, that God created everyone to be equal, unless you're brown or you're Black. And there's just been systematic racism against, Native Americans, against Mexicans, against Chinese, against African Americans throughout the history of this country. I mean, African Americans have only had the right to vote for 65 years. 65 years. Okay. And you're talking 400 years of history of this nation since colonization. And they're still fighting systematic racism from every part of this country, every part of this government, not just the criminal justice system, everything that we have has systematic racism. People talk about white privilege, and white people get
place right now that are keeping minorities down.
I'm sorry, what's that?
What laws are in place right now that are keeping minorities down?
Well, there are no laws per se, but there are societal normalities that are holding people back. Okay,
which are
societal
present
normative.
in every country, not just the
Which
United
are, yes, they are present in every country. It's just like misogyny in this country.
That's why you saw BLM protests in every country, though.
America as a whole, okay, hates women and minorities. That is how that works. Even though women are a part of minorities, okay, but especially women in this country are hated. Okay, you look systematically throughout history of this country, women are hated first, then all minorities after. You know, even minorities don't even get to be first in the hatred of this country.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree.
Why not?
Because
they're not actively making laws to keep us down.
They're not. Okay, so
and the laws that have been
Donald Trump
made-
and the Republicans haven't done everything that they can to shut down Planned Parenthood so that women can have the right to have a choice to do what they want to do with their own bodies.
Okay, Planned Parenthood should not be taxpayer funded.
Why?
It shouldn't.
Why?
Because I don't agree with abortion, but I do
Okay, so
think,
all
I
tax,
think, no,
all churches.
no.
Wait, if you're going to
I
say that,
think-
then all churches that talk about politics should be taxed the shit out of this country.
I think churches should be staying out of politics. I think anytime churches get involved in politics, it is an issue, and they shouldn't, and they should face penalties for that. That being said, I don't agree with abortion. I think it's wrong.
Okay.
I
Why?
think that if you want an abortion, because I think that life begins, we can't tell. We can't
Okay.
tell when life begins.
90% of rich Republicans would disagree with you.
I don't care. I don't care whether they agree with me or not, because I don't agree with it.
Okay.
But if mine, let's see, Mary, I don't know, just random name. Mary wants to go get an abortion, and she's my
Okay.
friend.
Okay.
I don't agree with that. I think it's wrong. But
Okay.
she made the decision to go have one, and I'm still going to support her because I know that that is something that's going to be hard for her. I know it's something
Okay.
that she's
Okay.
going to have issues with, but I don't want to be paying for it.
But Shiloh, what if Mary has a medical issue that prevents the pregnancy from even being feasible?
Then it should be something where it is a medical issue, and she can
Okay.
go to a doctor, and a doctor can say,
What if she can't afford a
"Really
doctor?
sorry." If she can't afford a doctor,
If she can't afford the doctor visit, then
okay.
Look at Michael playing devil's advocate. I like that, man. That's awesome.
I mean, and I'm the Republican here, and I have to do this. You guys are forcing me into this. But, I mean, honestly, what if she can't afford it? What if she has no choice?
Here's my question. Here's my question. She goes to the doctor. She can't go to the doctor. Does she not have insurance?
She may not. Because
Some
she's
people
poor.
in this country
Because
don't.
she can't afford it?
Sure.
Then she needs to get on Medicaid.
Okay.
But Medicaid is
Yeah.
federally funded.
Yeah, what if you
Medicaid
can't?
is federally funded, but if
What
you
if you
treat it
can't?
as a medical issue,
Uh-huh.
and you're going to your doctor instead of Planned Parenthood,
Okay,
and your
well,
doctor says you have an issue.
Let me ask this question real quick. You probably are pro-choice because of your religious beliefs, right?
No.
No. Okay. Well, most people are. And I look at it this way. If you're religious and you do believe in being pro-life because, it's against what God wants, God is supposed to have been giving everyone a choice to either do whatever they want to do, right? It's
Right.
up to that person to choose whatever they want to do.
Right.
Why stop anyone's choice from doing what they want to do?
And I'm not talking about stopping anyone's choice from what they want to do.
My
You want to go
argument
get an
with that,
abortion?
Sean,
Go get an
My
abortion.
argument with that, Sean, is that where is the infant's choice in any of that?
Okay, so in the Bible in 2 Kings, when it actually
we're not
tells
talking
you how
about
to
Bible. We're not talking about
No,
Bible.
no, no. I'm just trying to
we've
prove a
taken
point
religion
here.
out of this.
Well, no. You actually said, where's the infant's choice? In the Bible, in 2 Kings, it actually gives implicit instructions on how to abort a child that you don't want. What about that child's choice in the Old Testament?
I don't think if you're gonna look at religion, the Old Testament, everything got flipped around when New Testament came along. The
Well, the
law
New
of Moses
Testament
got
never mentions
fulfilled.
abortion.
So at that point, one would assume, if you are religiously based, that abortion is not all right. But
Why?
my thing is,
Because it actually
said
said it was okay in 2 Kings.
okay. So when I say my pro-life is not based on religion, I mean that. I didn't come to that position because of anything the Bible said. I didn't come to that because of anything I was taught as a child. I came to that decision based on the fact that, yeah, it's my body.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my choice. And if I am, if I'm going to go out and have sex and not do anything about it to make sure that I don't get pregnant, especially in this day and age when we have the Plan B pill, like if I'm not going to...
Which is considered abortion.
Very true. It terminates
I've done-
potential pregnancy.
Now, here's the thing with the Plan B pill, and I know this because I've done a couple research papers on it when I was in college. The Plan B pill does not terminate a pregnancy. A Plan B pill keeps a pregnancy from happening, but if the egg has already implanted in the uterine wall, Plan B will not work.
Okay, but most religious extremists...
Which is why you have to take it. Which is why you have to take it within a certain amount of time.
But most religious extremists are even against the Plan B pill.
Well, and here's the thing:
but we're not talking about religion.
We're not talking about religion, though, Sean. I will say that nobody's bringing up religion. I believe both of them just believe in the fact that, number one, they don't want to have to pay for somebody else's abortion.
Less than 2% of abortions are performed at Planned Parenthood. Most of the things they do at Planned Parenthood are women's health care. You know, they do mammograms. They do all sorts of different things, you know, pap smears, everything that women can't afford when they can't go to a doctor. Abortion is very, very small on that. And in fact, federal money can't be put towards an abortion at all. It's against the law.
I think that was actually a Bush thing. I think Bush made sure that didn't happen.
So actually, your tax dollars don't pay for abortion at all.
And that's exactly what I was about to...
I don't agree with Planned Parenthood as an organization because the founder was a eugenicist and a racist. And I don't see how...
Okay, so because the founders of this country were slave-owning racists, right, and they didn't believe that black people were more than 1/3 of a person, we should just discount the entire American system?
Not all of the founding fathers believed that. And in fact, there were founding fathers that tried to make sure that something was put in the Constitution that slavery was illegal and immoral. And it got taken out so that the South would join, because if the South hadn't joined, we wouldn't have been able to win.
Okay, but still,
so they compromised.
The country was founded on extreme prejudice and extreme racism.
That's not what it was founded on. That's
really?
No, that is not what it was founded on. This country was founded by people who had those beliefs, but it wasn't founded on racism.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. No, it was not. It was founded on.
So a bunch of white rich people who agreed that this Constitution, where black people could be counted as 1/3 of a person, that doesn't mean that the country was based on racism.
Not everyone who was part of the Congressional Convention,
but they signed off on it
because that was the choice that they had. That was the choice that they had.
But most of them were
wealthy.
Sign
off of it and.
Well, I wouldn't have signed off on it.
Sign off on it and get free.
But you're taking a 19th century thought pattern and trying to apply it to today. It's totally different.
Okay, owning another person. Let's look at it from back then, okay? Owning another human being. That means that most white people didn't consider black people to be a human being. Is that the right assumption?
Africans that were the same way. You had Zulu tribes that were taking other tribes and making them slaves.
Yes, you did have people that were doing that over in Africa, and they are just as wrong. I'm not trying to say that they weren't just as wrong. But this country was founded on racism. It really was.
And to deny that is not slavery. It included slavery. There was a big difference.
This country was founded on slavery and genocide.
Sean, I can see the point that Antonio and Shiloh are both making, and I do agree. This is a lot of fun, and I believe both of your sides. I'm really enjoying the debate. Now, back to what we were talking about, though, Shiloh. At that point, you don't want your
where we started.
Right. We were talking about Medicare, and I said, if somebody didn't have the money and things like that, and Medicare being, a taxpayer-funded thing. At that point,
my thought on that
Go ahead.
is let life happen.
No.
But is life going to happen? We've already decided that it's not a feasible pregnancy. So at that point, what do you mean?
Hold on. We've got 5,000 wards of the state in Arkansas that no one will adopt.
True.
Is that fair? Should we just let life happen? Because their life sucks and nobody wants them. And then when they become 18, they're just thrown out. Is that fair? Let life happen? Now you have a whole bunch of people, 5,000 people that are going to be thrown out on the street. They have nothing. They have no security. They have no family. They have literally nothing.
You're right, Sean. It's better.
What are they supposed to do?
Put a rod through their head.
I honestly believe that if you can't afford to take care of a child, you're a single mother, and you decide, hey, you know what? I don't want to do that to a child. I don't want to cause suffering for a child. And you choose to have an abortion. That's fine.
What you should have done is thought about that before you started having sex.
What if they were raped?
If they were raped, that is an individual issue. And then, that's a problem. But you can't say, what if they were raped, when the vast majority of abortions are not rape victims. And I think that there should.
How many women are so uneducated that they don't know what they should do? Because in our sex education in America, they talk about abstinence only. They don't talk about sex. They don't talk about consequences. They don't talk about mechanisms, right?
Dude, I don't know what 5th grade you went to, but we went all through sex and how it works.
You went to school in Colorado. We're talking about Arkansas, where most of the people here are fucking ignorant rednecks.
Very true. Very true.
And that's fair. That's fair. I am coming at it from a different culture.
Can I address this comment from?
Oh yeah, I was about to say that would be my father. So please, go for it.
So when we talk about black on black crime, that is simply crime by proximity. We don't talk about white people killing each other as white on white crime. Every person kills who they're closest to. Every person kills who they're closest to. It is so ignorant to talk about black on black crime, because that is just crime. Just call it crime.
Exactly.
Because we don't look at white on white crime and say white on white crime. It is simply crime by proximity. So Tyrone lives near Ray, and Tyrone and Ray get into it, and Tyrone kills Ray. Well, you know what, Mike Carnahan? Tyrone's gonna get arrested and prosecuted for it.
Thank you. That's all we're saying. That's all we're saying.
Black on black crime is crime, and it is a problem, and it's simply just crime in our nation that we need to deal with.
Guess what? Once again, going back to the video earlier about the young boy, that's fine. Guess what? You want to see the anger? Let that gentleman have gone 2-3 months without being freaking incarcerated, and you want to see the fucking anger. Sorry to use the F word, but that's the difference, in my opinion, in these two issues. He was locked up. You want to talk about black on black crime? Everybody that... I can't say everybody because that's a generalization, but somebody that commits a black on black crime is more likely to go to jail.
I'm more forgiving of if we talk about black crimes, not black on black crime, black crimes. And if we want to talk about those communities like Shiloh and I did moments ago, I think that is entirely fair game. That addresses the topic appropriately without putting like these goggles on it, our racial biases that make our nation racist, because we're never going to refer to a white man killing another white man as white on white crime in a suburban neighborhood. We're just going to call it a fucking crime.
No, I'm
Sean,
not
you're
gonna
muted.
disagree with that. I have heard it referred to as white on white crime, but I am also going to agree with you, Tali. I think that calling it white on white or black on black, or even the need that people feel to divide it into those categories is outrageous. It is divisive. It is identity politics, and I don't think it serves anybody for us to do that. And like I said earlier to Mike, with the whole police brutality issue, I don't think it's a matter of race, I think it's a matter of power. You get bad people in positions of power, and then people take that and politicize it for how they want, for what they want, to further their own agendas.
But the whole BLM movement at its core is to address the fact that they have too much power, to address the fact that they need more training, to address the fact that, they're being...
So they need more training.
Absolutely.
They need more psych tests. They need more...
Absolutely.
More frequent, not just psych tests, but also physical tests, making sure that they are mentally and physically able to do their job, making sure physically and mentally they know how to do their job. They know how to
police,
instead of
police in this country,
we need more funds to train them.
No.
Okay. Wait.
Defund
Yeah, I would.
is the same as
say that.
reallocate. It just means let's move that around.
Yeah.
We defunded schools. No one bat an eye. Well, look at our fucking school lunches. No one bat an eye, and our kids eat shit.
Right.
Defunding just means reallocating. When we defunded schools, all that money moved elsewhere, primarily to city funding to police stations and some fire departments. That's what happened with
I completely agree. Right now, Shiloh, they have plenty of money to do this training we're talking about.
Police in this country, actually, police in this country get 8 to 12 weeks of training before they're put out on the streets. Sometimes 16 to 20, but it's only a matter of weeks. In Switzerland, Norway, different European countries, France, England, you're talking 2 years of training, and they teach them deep psychological training of how to de-escalate bad situations. Here, you get 8 to 20 weeks, depending on the police force, and you're thrown out there on the streets. Now 8 weeks, 12 weeks, that's the average. You get some gung-ho kid who's just come back from Afghanistan, Iraq, they got a chip on their shoulder,
PTSD.
It don't even have to be that. You get a kid that was bullied in high school.
Yes.
And then suddenly has a chip on his shoulder to prove that he is right.
Absolutely.
You also get the belief from high school.
Yes,
It's like,
and that's-
I'm still right, and now I got a gun to go with it.
And that's the
And that's the
that we have
problem.
in America, is that most police think that they have, the authority to do whatever they want. They're judge, jury, and executioner on the streets, and that's wrong. Everyone has their due date in court, and that's what cops should know. They should learn to de-escalate everything without violence as best that they can. And it's just like the military. Unless someone points a gun at them and they can actually say that it's a gun, right? Cool. Then you can use deadly force. But if you're too afraid to do that, you don't need to be a fucking cop.
I would agree with that statement. My situation, you talk about a lot of situations where, for example, the gentleman in Atlanta had a taser. When a taser's in a police person's hand, it's less than lethal force.
Right.
How does that met with deadly force?
Less than lethal force doesn't mean less than deadly. People die with less than lethal
But what
force.
I'm saying is, where then is if you want to call it in a police person's hands less than lethal force, where's the jurisdiction to then use lethal force
Well, the difference
against that person?
right there is the gentleman beat the cop to get that out of his hand.
He got his ass whooped.
Had it been a pistol, he would have beat the cop to get the pistol out of his hand.
He got his ass whooped. I mean, at the same time, if you get your ass whooped, are you in fear for your life, Antonio?
You can
Possibly.
be.
Depends on who it is.
Depends on the situation. It really does. Like, it depends on the situation, Mike. Like, if I get my ass whooped by Tali first,
Number one, that's hilarious, because Tali whooping anybody's ass is hilarious. I'm not saying she can. I'm just saying her getting mad enough.
I have 4 brown belts. I could do it.
Oh, I know you could do it, but you getting mad enough? Come on now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I've made Tali mad enough to come after me, then, I probably deserved it, first off. But second of all, I'm not going to be afraid for my life in that situation because I know her. She's a friend. Or, she's an acquaintance. She's another female. I'm not worried about.
Sleep lightly, Shiloh, with the chokehold.
And I'm down for that. But
might be a little fun before you pass that too.
Whoa!
Get in line because I am married. Remember.
Oh, hey, yeah, tell your husband I said what's up.
This just took a turn. American Idiots After Dark.
Right. 10 o'clock hits, and but you know, she comes after me. I'm going to fight back. I'm not just going to lay down for it. And I may not win, but I'm not going to lose by myself. But
Tali, we're trying to be serious here.
That's okay, but that's a completely different situation than if I have especially if it's a man that I don't know, or even if it's a man that I do know and I've seen him angry before. That is a far more frightening prospect. And if I have the means to defend myself, it's not going to be a thought process in my head. I have a gun. Should I use it? He might die. It's going to be, he's coming after me.
I don't want you to think I'm trying to bait you into this is not a baiting situation. I'm just trying to figure out where your mindset is and where you draw the line.
No,
Trayvon, hold on, Tali.
You're bringing a lot. Well, I'm giving Shiloh a compliment.
Oh, okay.
You're bringing a lot because between you and Antonio, with me being somewhat left-leaning but moderate, Michael being right-leaning and moderate, and then Sean being so far left.
Oh my God, Sean's so far left. We don't get a lot of this, so I enjoy it.
I think I don't know where you stand on trans rights and stuff, but I think I'm like the only really pro-trans person. I'm not sure though.
Oh no, absolutely. I'm fine with trans people as far as that goes. Definitely.
Like my trans adults and their trans rights. Do I understand everything in the LGBTQ IA2S plus community that I'm a part of because I'm bisexual? No, I don't.
What, IA2S?
Yeah, that's a new thing.
They keep adding stuff.
Spirit.
It's the alphabet community.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you're the second person in a row that said that, and I think that's just awesome. I think the last one said alphabet soup.
But I don't get it. I really don't get it. I try really hard to be tolerant of most Americans, as long as you're not just super hate spewing. Like, I'm gonna try really hard to get where you're coming from. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I love y'all. Y'all are doing awesome, and don't think anything just because we disagree. I still love y'all. Y'all are amazing. But my question
on that is,
go ahead.
Like I was saying with the other deal, is let people live. I mean, if that's what their choice is, that's their choice. They're not trying to push it on me.
Right, very true.
I don't have a problem with it until they try to push
feelings
it on
them.
So my question for you, Shiloh, like I said, I'm just trying to figure out where you draw the line in the sand. So you said, you know, it could be a different situation if you don't know the person. So I'm literally just I'm not trying to bait you in this, but I'm going to bring up a very controversial topic. Trayvon.
Mm-hmm.
Zimmerman didn't know Trayvon. Did Zimmerman act correctly? He was just getting his ass whooped.
Well, Zimmerman followed him though.
Very true.
To a corner store, and he called the cops and was told not to engage with Trayvon Martin, and
very true.
To do so. So that's
good point. There are extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, that's a really difficult situation.
What would be a good? Gosh darn it! You guys are giving me the hard way to go for finding an example. But I see your point. You do make a good point. You know, if it's a big hulking motherfucker that comes and whoops my ass, yeah, I may think my face is going to get caved in and I may die. But at some point, though, also, I don't know.
Well, and I think the very fact that you are having a hard time thinking of a specific example just kind of furthers my point. It is so situation dependent.
True.
And especially in a job where you are a police officer, if you are of a more skittish personality, which you probably shouldn't be a police officer if you are.
You're afraid you should be a cop.
If you are afraid for your life, one person is going to have a different threshold. For the kid who was bullied in high school is going to have a different point where he becomes afraid for his life than the bully who was the kid who was a bully who was in high school, who's going to be different from the service member
bullier,
that comes back from Afghanistan or Iraq, who was in a combat situation. They're going to have a completely different, line where they become afraid for their life, and it's individual and situation dependent. Like, you can't.
I'm probably about to make a controversial statement, but part of me wants to disqualify just about any veteran that does come back from being a police officer, just because of the potential that could happen.
No. We shouldn't do that. Okay, so the VA, the Veterans Administration, right? As soon as someone comes over from the box, they need to go through a decompression system to teach people how not to be violent anymore, how to reintegrate into society.
Agreed. I think I took an 8-hour course to get ready to come back into society.
And that's bullshit. You should be in a 6-month or longer program, depending on your post-traumatic stress disorder. And they should give you the proper medication, psychiatric care, different things like that. If after that program you can't handle your shit, you don't need to be a cop.
Right.
If you're afraid that you might get killed at work, you don't need to be a cop.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
When the police try to tell you, hey, you know what? You need to be able to come home no matter what. Then they need to stop that type of training and tell people you don't need to be a cop. Okay? Police officers are supposed to protect and serve the community no matter what. So if you have any kind of issues about putting your life on the line, you just don't need to be a fucking cop.
I think Sean, you make a good point with that statement.
That goes
Go
out
ahead.
to deal with a drunk driver, and in the process of arresting drunk driver, gets his ass whooped.
Mm-hmm.
What is he supposed to do? He got his ass whooped.
Use his combat training.
Maybe he should
but he
have
got the taser taken away.
Maintain his combat training.
Anybody that would have their taser or weapon taken away from them doesn't have the freaking mental ability or intestinal fortitude to take care of that situation. We are talking about people that need to be highly educated.
We're referencing Atlanta, if you can't tell, Sean.
But I'm just saying, they need to be highly educated. You can't just have a high school diploma to be a cop in this country. That's bullshit.
I agree.
You need to have a college degree.
Hold on, Sean.
And your taser taken away from you. What are you supposed to do? Just give up? So, okay, well, he's got it.
You shouldn't get in that position to begin with. Your training should be good enough. Your combat training should be good enough that you should be in that position.
Training in this country is a joke.
Exactly. That's what it needs to be improved upon.
What's a joke?
Training.
Training in this country.
No one's disagreed with that.
Absolutely.
Sean, we've all agreed.
On that point. But to further that point, this originally started out with whether or not he should have been shot.
Right. Originally talking about the Atlanta situation, should he have been shot? I don't agree. I don't agree that he should have been shot. I believe, number one, they escalated that situation because if you remember, he originally started in his vehicle drunk. They should have put him in the back of the patrol car and either taken him to the drunk tank or they should have taken him home. One of two options. That's all you had to do.
Well, when they were starting to put the cuffs on him is when he turned around and started whipping that cop's ass.
Do you really have to put the cuffs on him in that case, though?
Yeah, you should.
Mm.
If you're dealing with a drunk, and especially if it's a drunk you don't know,
to my knowledge, it is protocol that you put cuffs on anybody you're putting into the vehicle.
Okay, I can see your point there.
I just video. I don't think they escalated it that far.
Well, my thing is that... Shut up, Sean. My thing is this, though. You say that they didn't escalate it, but the video starts out with the gentleman, yes, sir, no, sir, yeah, I had a few drinks, stuff like that. He was respectful. How did we go from respectful and doing everything you're supposed to he has bullets in his back and is no longer going home?
He has respect as long as he's thinking he may be able to get away with it.
What does that say?
Once he found out he can't get away with it, the respect went out the window.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. Don't even get me started on Kanye.
It gets tricky when you're dealing with drunks, too, because they can flip on a dime. You could be doing everything right, and, you can say one word. You can not even say anything. You can look at them, and if they think it's the wrong way, they can become horribly aggressive just like that. So you talk about escalation of a situation. What happened is regrettable, and yes, the cop should have had better training to be able to, to keep that from happening. But at the same time, you cannot predict 100% human behavior.
Very true, very true. My thing is this, though. I think where I have my sticking point is he's running away. The bullets are in his back. He's running away. At that point, even in stand your ground, you're not allowed to shoot somebody.
That's true.
You should never shoot anyone in the back.
He turned around to make a motion with a weapon. At that point, does the cop realize what the weapon is? Does he realize it's...
Yeah, because he just got it taken away from him.
But does he realize it's a taser? Does he know what he may have had on him other than the taser?
Obviously he knows because he pulls his gun.
No, well, he knows he has the taser, but does he know what else might be in his pockets? Does he know that he didn't have another weapon in his waistband?
Antonio's making a great point. You don't know what the guy has. He's reaching for something. Police training says at that point, if you fear for your life, you're supposed to take deadly force. That's what police training actually does. I'm right about that, right?
Yes. Yes, you're right.
They tell you to worry about yourself more than anything else.
Right.
You're supposed to bring yourself home. So that's what police training does.
Other instances I have seen where...
It's us versus them as far as the police goes.
The gentleman was in the passenger seat and told the cop, I am a licensed carry.
I know exactly which situation you're talking about.
To get his gun, and he goes
Orlando
to his gun, pull it out.
Yep.
Yes. And he got shot by the cop. That cop should have been put in jail, executed. I don't care what you think about the death penalty.
Antonio's my death penalty, buddy. Yay!
That guy should have been put under the jail. Period.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was murder.
So, question: and once again, of course, I'm terrible with names, but the gentleman in Colorado, Elijah. Are you guys familiar with that one?
Not off the top of my head.
So essentially, I'll go over the cliff notes on this one because I am interested in this one as well. The gentleman's antisocial. He's walking home late at night. He's wearing a face mask. He's got a condition with his blood and it being cold outside. Something to do with that. That's why he's wearing the face mask. A woman calls and tells the police that there's a suspicious individual walking through the neighborhood.
You're talking about that little
Elijah McClain. Yeah. Elijah McClain. He's walking through the neighborhood. The woman calls and says there's a suspicious individual. Cops pull up, say, hey, what's going on? He says, I'm just trying to walk home. And they grab him for whatever reason. I don't remember why they grabbed him, but they made a physical contact.
They escalated the issue.
Right. So it ends up, he's a very antisocial person. I think he may have even had autism. Tali, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I don't know about him having autism, but I know that he was like a really solitary individual. He played the violin for cats at the shelter.
Right. He was very antisocial. But he instantly...
or something. Like, he was really sick.
He instantly kind of, tensed up, and the cops took him down. Technically, he tensed up. So technically, according to the rule book, I guess technically they took him down. They choked him, and then whenever he kept freaking out, they had a EMT come in, and I forget the name of the drug, but they injected him with a drug, ketamine, and it led to his death. In that case, Antonio, would you be all for the cops being arrested and convicted?
Yes, most definitely. Because the first thing they were called out for was a suspicious person. Mm-hmm. Once he acknowledged what he was doing and gave them reason for him being out there, that investigation is over.
Okay. I just wanted to check and see, where you were, where the lines are, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely that one helps me out a lot.
Yeah.
Because that one hurts me still.
Suspicion is neither a misdemeanor nor a felony. It is not a crime to be suspicious.
And to be fair, I can see the gray area in the Atlanta case. Now that you've kind of laid it out for me, I can see the gray area. You make a point. Did the cop necessarily know? Should he have patted him down before he put the cuffs on him is what I was thinking. When you were talking about the cuffs.
At that point, I've seen cops pat down after cuff, and I've seen them pat down before cuff.
Okay.
I don't know why he chose to do it after, but as soon as he told him that he was under arrest, started reading him his rights, and grabbed his wrist to put the cuffs on him, is when he turned around and, like they said, he flipped.
Right. And like you said, once again, he didn't know, and that was, technically we could say through.
He just pushed the cop off and ran. He hit the cop several times and took one of his weapons.
Okay. Tali, can you see the point? Because I don't know if I'm missing the point here, because I definitely understand what Antonio's saying. As far as this case, I can see what he's saying. As far as if you hadn't done the pat down before and you don't know what else he has besides that taser, now I can kind of understand. I was operating under he knew that it was only the taser. So I can kind of see this now. Tali, can you see where I'm on the lines of thinking on this, or am I completely missing another point that's key here?
The only, not to agree or disagree, but the main point I hear is that what we've been saying, we need to better train our police to handle these situations. Yes. That cop should have patted him down before he cuffed him, just as a basic protocol. So that way, if something did happen like it did, he knew what this man had on him or didn't have on him, because he would have removed it, what have you. What I'm hearing is just that we're arguing different sides of that same opinion. Our police forces need better training.
Very true. We are kind of going in circles here.
Before Shiloh leaves, I want to mention something really quick. The post office is being attacked by the Trump administration. They're locking boxes. They're removing boxes all over the United States. People are calling this voter suppression because there's supposed to be mail-in ballots happening because of the COVID virus. What do you all think about that?
Please don't put off this election, because that makes Nancy Pelosi the next president.
Oh, Jesus Christ, let me beat my head against the wall.
It won't make Nancy Pelosi the president unless she actually wins her election, because she actually has an election before the presidential. Yes.
Oh, okay.
No,
yes.
I still don't like anyone in this lineup, so can we please just have
Can we just have the fucking election, please, Donald?
That's my thing. Because here's what I firmly believe. I really think Trump is going to win. I think that the drop in poll numbers is from lack of participation, because every Trump supporter I know is convinced.
It's the sampling size. It's absolutely the sampling size.
Here's my question on the whole post office.
And then I don't even know who they're getting these Democratic numbers from, because I do not know a lot of people that are happy at all with anything the Democratic Party's doing for these poll numbers, to be correct.
Yeah, most people in the Democratic Party or progressives or leftists, we can't stand what's going on right now. We're all going crazy because nothing's happening the way that it should.
Right. Okay, Antonio, you were going to say something about the post office?
On the postal deal, Obama removed 14,000 postal boxes while he was in office, yet nobody claimed that he was trying to do anything.
Well,
I didn't know anything about that. If I had known about that, I would have been
about that.
But I think the reason in here is because we weren't having mail-in ballots like we're doing now. Whereas when that happened with Obama, it was only certain states that did it regularly, like my home state, Hawaii. They do mail-in ballot every year anyway. Because before that, they did the caucus. And
I think that sheds a new light on this, Antonio.
But the reason we're seeing it about Trump is because there's an election going on. Obama removing mailbox is absolutely an issue, because you know what? That is a mailing system that is cheap for American citizens.
Taxpayer-funded.
Taxpayer-funded. But it's also easier for voter fraud to happen with mail-in ballots, and I think voter fraud. It's easier to happen.
You would have seen that in the states that have been doing mail-in ballots.
Technically, though, Trump does say that New York is a clear case of where voter fraud is key situation in that race.
That's a misnomer. Most voter fraud that has happened in this country over the last 40 years is less than 1%. Less than 1%. In fact, it's only 47 cases.
Okay, that being said, the
post
post office itself has been tanking for years, and the only reason the Democratic Party is pushing for it right now is because of the mail-in ballot stuff.
I work in the shipping business. Yeah, we kick the postal services ass.
They can't afford the pensions that they owe to people. They can't.
The postal service does suck, Sean.
Loans
I would say the postal service Amazon. If we have money, for endless universal wars against terrorism for the cause of oil, we have the money for the post office. There is no excuse for not having universal health care, a post office, free college for every American in this country, as long as we're spending 10 times more than the next country on military affairs.
And now we're getting into the Bernie Sanders platform for tonight.
Yes, we are. Because socialism rocks.
How we got to
socialism doesn't work.
What can the government do for me?
Socialism rocks, and Che Guevara was a hero.
Oh my goodness. Antonio, what were you saying?
I said I want to know where we got to the point of what can the government do for me.
True. Okay, guys.
Are we leaving?
When our government stopped doing everything that they were supposed to for us.
Sean, it is 10:15. I have work in the morning.
I have work in the morning. I gotta get up at 6 in the morning.
You guys, I have work in half an hour.
Yeah, Shiloh has work.
I work nights.
Okay, y'all. Tali, real quick, final thought before we hop off of here for the night.
Final thought on what?
On anything we've talked about tonight. I guess we should not narrow it down. But final thought, I guess we'll choose on the DNC. Final thought on what you think about the DNC this week, the RNC next week, and how it's going to affect November, things like that.
Well, we're in a red state, and so I already know Arkansas is going to Trump. I firmly believe because the Democrats cannot bother to listen to their platform and the people like voting, Trump's going to win because I don't know anyone who's happy.
Very true. Antonio?
Trump 2020.
Okay. Shiloh?
My final thought.
I think the DNC is their only hope of getting any sort of presence in the election is trying to fire people up over the race issue. They messed up. They messed up putting Kamala in as the VP.
Very good point. Sean, final thoughts?
I would say that this election is Trump's to lose. And if he makes the right mistakes, he will lose this election. If he just shut up today and got off Twitter and just didn't do anything, he's going to win. But the whole Twitter thing and everything else that he does, it is his election to lose, so he could lose it.
Absolutely. And by the way, as I sit here with my final thought, I'm going to include both you, Antonio, and you, Shiloh. I haven't talked to you guys about this yet, but November 3rd, we're going to be here all night streaming election coverage, so you guys are more than welcome to pop in whenever you can. I know we're talking about taking the next day off, so obviously I'm sure you guys may not be able to do that, but just pop in when you can. But
leave now.
That's my final thought. Is don't forget to tune in November 3rd for the American Idiots election night coverage. I'm going to go back and try to watch Michelle's speech. I guess we missed it. But I hope you guys have a great evening, a great week, and
good night.
Go us. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for
I love Fidel Castro.
Oh, Lord.